Welcome in, sinners. Today is Monday, November 18th, and we're a little hungover because we have been sipping on champagne with those 72 Dolphins. Don't worry, we won't be buffering. We'll tell you about the real fight that happened and why Cleveland rocks.
Sports, comedy, pop culture, and everything in between. By idiots, for idiots.
Can we all just finally admit that Purdue is the best college football team in the state of Indiana? But
This is Sports Idiot Nation.
Sports, comedy, pop culture, and everything in between. By idiots, for idiots. Welcome, sinners. This is Sports Idiot Nation.
Welcome into Sports Idiot Nation, the weekly recap show that highlights what has happened in the sports and pop culture world while telling you what is coming up next. Remember, we come to you every Monday and Thursday. Follow us on Sports Idiot Nation wherever you get your social media. Always joined by Miles Behind Enemy Lines and Mr. T.I., Mr. Redface. T.I., I gotta ask you how your day went yesterday. Still red from the day. Tell us about everything that went down.
Sure. Well, some referees slipped something in my drink and took advantage of me, and here I am.
What was the worst call? What do you think, real quick? So you're, the Titans idiot. You and Corked Backs. Shout out to our guy from Corked Bats, right?
Yeah. Austin was down. Austin was in town. So, he, as, and our viewers know that have seen that episode, Austin works in the Chicago radio market, country music DJ. He is in town for CMAs. They're in town as a unit. They're interviewing folks. Yesterday he had to, right from the game, had to go to work. I hope his interviews went well because we had a bucket of beer and a half. So, I'm sure they went great. But, what was the worst call? Oh, my goodness. There were 13 penalties, and then there were some penalties that were overturned, it's just like, you got to be kidding me. But the clearest day one to me was the defensive pass interference on Brownlee in the end zone. Hits him square in the chest. Clean call. Even the announcers are like, it looks like a football play to me. It's a tough call. That was the overturn of downs. Titans had the ball, and the very next play, Minnesota gets a touchdown. Every bad call, everything they overturned basically led to points. I think there were about 14 points that Minnesota got basically in return of bad calls. So, ball bounces different ways. We know that, but I feel like Titans got hosed. And Bleacher Report, of all people, came to our defense. Anytime Bleacher Report's chiming in on the Titans, you're like, yeah, the fix is in. But
it's bad.
All in all, it was a great day. Austin and I got some awesome content. We hit up the Two-Tone Blue Boys first and tailgated with them for a while. Got tons of interviews, tons of just. I don't want to ruin it for folks because we have some really good content coming out. But probably the most fun I've had in a long time, just tailgating, because it really we were focused on having a good time, but we were more there for content. I met Austin like bright and early. We met at 8:00. Got busy right away. Went to the bar and watched the game. We both were offered tickets. We could have went to the game, but it's just like, once you get in there, you guys know, you just lose all track of time. And he had somewhere to be, and I had to help the kiddo with the school project. So we just thought it was best for us to stay out of that stadium. But all in all, it was a fantastic day. Shout out to Austin for coming down and showing the idiot how it's done. But
yeah, that's awesome.
Outcome of the game, not in our favor, but a lot of them really haven't been in our favor. We know that, but just 2 weeks in a row now, just, you're looking at 10 point swings in games where we're getting screwed out of points. And they took a touchdown away for even the announcers again. We're just like, that's a really tough call. I don't know really how you call that. And they even said, I've never seen so many game changing calls be made in one game. You wipe a touchdown off the board, you wipe a turnover on downs. It's just that right there is a 14-point swing. So really tough, but that's the way it goes. It's the way it goes, at least this season and last, and the way things are going, maybe the next 2 years, but eventually we'll get it together,
So speaking of really tough and the next 2 years, I want to bring something to Miles's attention. I was scrolling through Reels and happened to catch this from a Bears content creator, and want to know if you caught this, Miles. So the Bears, as we know, to the chagrin of their fan base, had a Kansas City Chiefs moment where they were ready to win the game and they freaking got their kick blocked. And here's something to think about with the Chicago Bears, as they are the only team with a losing record in the NFC North. But get this, I totally forgot this. Mitch Trubisky with the team next year, fired coach. Justin Fields with the team next year, a fired coach. Now, guy who paints his nails with the team next year. What does it look like that's happening here, boys? How could you screw up a franchise so terribly that you're going through the same exact thing over and over and over? And by the way, during this stretch, the defense, which has been the staple of the Bears, mysteriously also has left the building. Like, what is happening? Like, they just find new ways to lose and to make it hilariously bad.
Well, they need Al Capone back to take out the Hollis family, because that ownership is completely decimating anything
Aloof.
that could be good about the Chicago Bears. And even when they were good back in the day, no one thought they were actually good. I mean, you still had Sexy Rexy as your quarterback on a Super Bowl team. So no matter what that franchise does since the 80s, they find a way to ruin that franchise. My favorite stat was obviously seeing how many days it's been since the Bears have last beaten the Green Bay Packers. And then
They're 26 and 4 in their last 30. 26 and 4.
That makes me think of when the Redskins had a 30-year win streak against the Lions, and obviously they were different divisions, but they had played them 20 times in 30 years and beaten them 30 straight years. Or when the Bills had that losing streak against the Dolphins back in the 70s.
Yeah,
but I'm going through a couple more here. That's what it makes me think of, the historical losing streaks, like the Bills in the 1970s never beat the Miami Dolphins, things like that. So that was the research I was doing after I saw that stat. It's been 2,164 days or whatever since the Bears last beat Green Bay. And then I was watching some YouTube videos or Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels, what have you, and saw this little kid who's probably 6 years old. Is too young to know what a Chicago Bears win over the Green Bay Packers looks like. And he's watching it. He's about to get excited. And then he just goes into a deep depression. I think he was going to open his first beer and turn to alcoholism, probably like his father did many years ago. And the dad just narrating what's going on. Yep, son, get used to this. This is life for us as Bears fans. But in reality, they have to clean house. It starts with the ownership. They got a lot of crime in Chicago. They're just targeting the wrong people, apparently, because they need to wipe that toilet bowl clean and completely start over, because no matter what they do, they will fail. I don't even know what was it, Anubel or what's their head coach's last name?
Eberflus or something.
Yeah, whatever the hell
Matt
it is, it doesn't
Eberflus?
really matter.
Eberflus.
There you go.
Tomato.
Husker Don'ts.
Yeah.
No matter, I think it's just an abyss there. No matter who goes in, even if they have a good start like they did earlier this year, they're going to find a way to crumble to the ground. Caleb Williams, your career's over. Just give it up now. But T.I., you brought up a good point. If they could find out a way to somehow trade for Justin Fields and get him on the Chicago Bears,
Mm-hmm.
I think they can go above 500.
I mean, can you imagine that team with Justin Fields? But one thing I will say, I'm a little confused. Maybe I'm just out of the loop, but you guys are talking about their owners. Last time I saw on Wikipedia, their owner was Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
I thought
he
Aaron
left.
Rodgers.
Well, no, he transferred the ownership over to Jordan Love.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. No worries. I'm here for you, bud.
I mean, but let's be real. So correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't I can't remember her first name, but isn't she 93 years old?
She's not dead is all that matters.
I mean, what kind of logical decision making can you possibly be doing at 93 years old? I mean, I'm just,
Barb, I believe, because every 93-year-old's name is Barb. That's a woman.
Yeah, well, I was talking actually, Austin and I were talking about this yesterday, because I was asking, what if he listens to a lot of the Chicago local sports radio up there, and he, for the most part, stays out of it. But I just kind of was asking, you think they're going to make a change? And he said that she won't do it midseason, like that's just how she is. But she damn sure doesn't wait, doesn't give them 2 years. I mean, look at all these coaches that are just out, So I don't know. I mean, what did we say at the beginning of the year? There was all the hype around the Bears. People can go back and watch our video. What did we say? Caleb Williams is going to be an average quarterback. They're still going to probably be looking up at the Packers. We knew they were going to be looking at the Lions. We did not know that the Vikings were going to be as good as they were because nobody saw really that coming. And we still don't really know how good the Vikings are. I mean, they struggled against Jacksonville. They kind of struggled against us. Probably would have lost the game without all the bad calls. So, I don't buy the Vikings. Great defense, but offense a little suspect. They got to, as Miles said in his Miles Behind Enemy Lines segment, they've got the best receiver in the NFL, and that masks a lot of deficiencies, no matter who is at quarterback. So,
So you mentioned Justin Fields, and I want to get into the two games by far that were the best NFL games for NFL fans, and that is Pittsburgh and Baltimore. And we talked about on the last episode when we did our middies that Pittsburgh, like, it's such a weird thing that they're doing, and the thing that they're doing is winning. Like, I can't figure it out.
They beat the Ratbirds with 6 field goals.
I don't. That's so AFC North. That is such an AFC North thing to say.
Field goals. I mean, shout out to whoever has Boswell on their fantasy team. I mean, geez, man.
It's so weird. I guess, like, do we officially stamp, like, Pittsburgh is a really good football team? That seems so weird. But look at their record.
Russ is Russ. He's going to be Russ, but he's still a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Get him in the playoffs. He's been there. I mean, he can game manage himself to a 6 field goal win against one of the best teams in the NFL. Then you have to put him in the argument. And
they're 2 games up.
Did you guys see TJ Watt?
City.
Did you see TJ Watt just annihilate the King? Oh,
yeah.
I've never seen anybody do that. I mean, he picked him up off the ground.
Yeah.
Picked him up off the ground. I thought I was watching WWE where I was just like, woo. Now, granted, we've seen people hit Derrick Henry hard, but I have never seen anybody come at him like that. I mean, he got sent back a little bit. I thought I was watching like Home Alone or something, the way he was in the air falling, Thought he was slipping on some micro machines there.
Yeah, that was definitely wild. It's crazy that the Steelers, Eagles, Bills are the teams that have 2 losses. And it just doesn't, I mean, we'll get into the Bills next, but it just seems so weird that the Steelers are 8-2. It's just crazy to me.
There's no way their fan base even saw it coming. I mean, it definitely has to be the shock of the year. And I think at first we all were like, oh, Washington. But now look at them. Like, they're stumbling. They're realizing that they have a rookie quarterback and they're going to have some ups and downs. But, yeah,
right.
Pittsburgh is there. They're in the argument, and it's time for us to swallow our pride and respect it, I guess,
So let's get into Buffalo, man. I was at a bar watching my 49ers finally lose to the Seahawks. Hasn't happened in like 6 years. Take the monkey off Gino's back. But I was watching at the bar, and Bills Mafia was in like full force. And it's kind of cool to see because everyone is rooting against Kansas City just for the fact of, like, we want something different. Like, all they're doing is winning. And so whoever they play, if it's Tampa Bay, if it's Seattle, if it's Green Bay, if it's Buffalo, it doesn't matter. That's who we're rooting for if they're playing Kansas City. That's just the way it is. So I kind of was on Bills Mafia. They were just getting loud and singing every touchdown and all that, and every third down play broken up or whatever.
What were they singing? Like Creed or something?
No, they have their chant. Let's go Buffalo. Let's go.
I thought you meant they were just singing like whatever was playing in the bar. They were just singing it. I thought you meant okay.
My baby takes the morning train.
No, that
We
is
like
awesome.
pina
Though.
coladas.
So Miles knows the bar. We've probably mentioned it, I believe, in this show before. The name of the bar is actually called Wrigley Field, and they do have karaoke going on later on Sunday nights. So I could have stayed and rocked the mic well, but I
Th-
chose to drown my sorrows since the Niners lost.
Do they call it Harry karaoke?
Right.
That would be good.
Very well done by
That'd be
Mr. T.I. We see how you got 31,000 followers.
I
Good job.
am a dad, and dad jokes are my specialty. And I enjoy puns. So
He's a poet, a papa poet.
So, the Bills, man.
I'm for it. I'm for the Bills. I said a couple weeks ago. I know a lot of Titans fans are in their feels and they want the Ratbirds to win the Super Bowl so Derrick Henry win one, or they want the Chiefs so D-Hop can win one. And I'm just over here like Josh Allen is my only hope for me to not be depressed, or Jared Goff. It's one of those guys. Those are my only hope to not see the Chiefs or the Ratbirds. Well, I take that back. Here we are talking about the Steelers. So maybe Danger Russ is the savior, but true Titans fans absolutely despise the Ratbirds, and I don't care if the ghost of Steve McNair is resurrected and is their quarterback. Like, no, they go to the Super Bowl, that's fine, but I want them to lose. Like, I want Josh Allen to keep both of those teams from going to the Super Bowl. I want the Bills to get there. Whether they win, I don't care, but I want to see the Bills represent the AFC in the Super Bowl if it can't be the Titans. And that's where I'm at. Maybe I'm Bills Mafia bandwagon. Fine, I'll take it.
I think it's obvious that the Chiefs fear the Bills the most, and the number one reason for that we saw today was Taylor Swift refused to show up despite having shows 3 nights in a row in Toronto. She would not come and take on Bills Mafia. And as Taylor Swift goes, the Kansas City Chiefs go. And if she's scared, they're scared, and the results showed. So Buffalo, suddenly the team to beat in the AFC.
Yeah. I mean, beginning of the year, we said they were sputtering, which they were, but they're definitely on a roll now.
And everyone thought this was the year that they were going to step back without a receiver, and it was going to be the Jets or the Dolphins who were going to own that division.
At Baltimore, they lost by 25, and we're like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Then they lost again at Houston. They lost 2 games in a row.
Right. Were they 1-2 to start the year? Right, have they won 8 in a row, or they've at least won 6 in a row? At the very least, they've won 6 in a row.
They've been on a roll since they faced the Titans. That's what happens. The Titans are the remedy for all of your problems.
They're 6 in a row.
It's 6 in a row. Springboard. It is 6 in a row. I knew it was either 6 or 8. I knew it was an even number.
It started with the Jets before that, which they only won by 3 points.
It's like an infomercial, It's like, is your team struggling? Well, head on down to Nashville and come see the Tennessee Titans, because we'll fix all what's ailing you.
And I think on a more serious note, Josh Allen is starting to turn that corner where he needed, especially in his early years, because he's still, 28 years old, 29 years old. He needed a big-time receiver like Diggs to help bail him out in certain situations, especially when he had all those turnover issues. But now he's starting to turn into that quarterback where he makes his receivers look like good receivers when they are mid at best. If they came over to a team like Tennessee, they'd be straight trash, and you would think not survive in the league until we trade them to a team like Buffalo, and then they're balling out. But I think Josh Allen is starting to show that he can be that quarterback that upgrades the rest of his team, not have players around him that upgrade him. And I get he gets a lot of flack for the playoffs, but we got to go back and break down those playoff games, especially that game in Kansas City where he won that game for him and the defense blew it with 13 seconds, and then in overtime never got a chance to touch the ball. Right. I think that, along with there's another playoff game that's escaping me right now where he completely balled out. But we want to put all that to the side and just think, oh, he lost to the Chiefs. He's lost to Cincinnati. He just can't do it. He can't get over the hump. And no, it takes more than just him to win playoff games. But I think this will be the year that he can actually prove that. And if he fails, so be it. That's on me for saying that he's not that guy to choke in the postseason all the time. But I think this is the year he starts having a breakthrough in the postseason.
Yeah,
Josh Allen.
I agree. I'm with you too, Miles. It's like these quarterbacks, and it's not just him. A lot of them. It's like, oh well, such and such didn't beat such and such, so they're equally. That means that they're not good. And it's like, okay, well, what about the defense that gave up 49 points? Like the quarterback's not playing defense. I mean, so if quarterback does his job and they lose the game because you can't keep a team from scoring 40 plus. Like, what can you do? One thing I think has been the big turning point for him is the cut down on interceptions. He's playing smart ball. He's just not, trying to just gunsling everything. He's putting it down. He's running when he needs to. I mean, that run he had yesterday was just freaking ridiculous.
Yeah,
He's a man.
Touchdown.
He's an absolute man. Yeah, Taylor Swift
man
can't
and
handle that.
man.
Taylor Swift can't handle a real man. We know that.
Not at all. She got Travie.
18 touchdowns to 5
Ada.
picks. We have not seen that from Josh Allen. And so he might be taking over as Lamar keeps losing. We just talked about this, that it was, to be honest, far and away Lamar Jackson to lose the MVP. Well, he might be losing it. I mean, even though his head-to-head is 35-10 against Josh Allen, but the lack of turnovers for Josh is pretty staggering, seeing what his turnovers usually are year in and year out. And so right now, in a matter of 5 days, I might be willing to switch. NFL not for long.
To go.
His lack of weapons too. I mean, kind of like Miles said, he's making his receivers
more valuable
role players. But I mean, James Cook, come on, man. I mean, no.
James can cook.
I mean, where does he rank in the running backs in the NFL? I mean, top 15, sure, just because he's putting up numbers.
He's neck and neck with Derrick Henry, of course.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
That's your point.
He's got the rookie. What Keon Coleman's the rookie they drafted, I think. So I mean, yeah, it's he's doing it. He's doing his job. And in the results, we see the results in the box score.
Now he does have 10 touchdowns, so I mean that's pretty decent. But other than that, yeah, Dalvin's brother is.
Well, he had two. He had 2 yesterday. So I mean,
yeah, no, he's doing his thing, and I love that they won by 2 scores. Like, to really put it to him, winning by 9 points mathematically is definitely 2 scores. All right, so let's shift a little bit from the NFL to Cleveland, Ohio, because boys, 82-0 is I think I might call my shot here, because Cleveland's scoring more points every game. They're like upping they're gonna average a freaking what is this, like the 80s Celtics, like 130 points. Like, it's crazy. Just last night they won again by double digits and dropped 128 points. So how can you not love it?
Is it just Garland and Spider, or do they have a third scorer that's putting up stuff, or is it just those guys and some role players?
They got
I really
Mobley.
haven't had
Mobley's
That's
walking
right.
20 and 10
from USC.
Right.
From USC.
Yeah, I knew there was a third guy. I haven't really watched a lot of their games. I knew there's a third guy.
Jarrett Allen is serviceable. He'll grab it. He'll grab some boards
Great
for you.
role
He'll
player.
pick up
He's
some
a great
steals.
role player.
And Okoro, your boy out of Auburn, is a lockdown. He's not going to put up world beater stats at all, but
he went to Auburn, so
right. But he plays defense because he's a Bruce Pearl product. So their starting 5 is solid, and that's why you're 15-0.
He comes from a school that knows how to really fight and get in there and grind it out. So
now tomorrow, we need to watch this game tomorrow. I mean, wait, Miles, is it at Boston?
Yes, sir. For the NBA Cup group play.
Right.
So if they beat Boston, they're for sure going 82-0. I mean, right?
We've decided.
Market
science. It's science.
Yeah. Well, no, we'll say 83-0 because the championship game in the NBA Cup doesn't count towards their record. So
sure, it's an extra game.
Right.
That the one time an asterisk would actually be a positive thing for a team. 82-0 asterisk, really 83.
And that would be good for Cleveland and therefore the world.
Yes, as Cleveland goes, so goes the rest of the world.
it's
They're
tradition.
hot in Cleveland. They're hot in Cleveland.
Definitely. What I don't
What a
even
reference.
remember who was it all those girls? Is that what was hot in Cleveland? The
Yeah,
show?
it was kind of like a designing women
Yeah,
type,
like Delta Burke.
like modernized version or something. And it had I know her mostly from what's the base? Oh man, the hilarious baseball, the HBO. Oh God, Eastbound and Down. I think one of the main characters was the teacher on Eastbound and Down that he's always
Okay.
trying to hook up with. And I think she was one of the stars in it. But yeah, I don't know how many years it got. It wasn't on long, but I'd catch it a couple times a night, and it made me laugh. And I'm very critical on situational comedies. I'm that guy when somebody's like, "Oh, you're gonna love this show," and I'm like, "Nah, I'm gonna hate it. I already know it." And that one was actually pretty good. So
Yeah, Cleveland rocks. It is just cool to see like a team that over the last few years they've been actually not even good at all. Last year, made the playoffs and made some noise, but this year no one saw that coming. So the NBA Cup, I still don't know how are we like. It's still kind of a head scratcher. Like, how are we feeling? They make the court look like the University of Oregon every single court. I'm like, what are we doing? I don't know. Unless my team wins, then I'll be like, what's really cool, guys? That NBA Cup. But other than that, I really don't know what I'm supposed to like. What am I doing?
Yeah, we'll watch it for the Grizzlies. Ti and I will, and knowing that the team that I picked, the team to watch for the year, the Orlando Magic, right now are sitting 2-0, and that's helped propel their 5-game winning streak right now to get up to third in the real stands. The NBA. Oh, I'm cool with the NBA Cup right now because the Magic are 2-0.
Yeah,
Memphis needs John back so bad. I mean, they lost to the Lakers, I think, by 5, and then lost to the Warriors. No, they lost to the Lakers by 6 and lost to the Warriors by 5. They
That's
did
a good win against the
shown some
Nuggies.
fight.
They beat the Chicken Nuggies yesterday,
Yeah.
though. That was solid.
They did get Bane back for the Warriors game, which is good. But he was coming off the bench, which I thought was strange. Although he did, yesterday he started. But he put up 22 in his return, so which is good. I mean, he's a scorer. But yeah, they, and another thing that irritates me. I mean, Adam, not to pick on your squad, but old Draymond, he pulls the grabs Edie's ankle. He acts like he got tangled up. They call it a fast break foul or whatever. Well, then after the game, they go back and review it, and they're like, "Oh, it's a flagrant 1." And you're like, "Okay, well, that should have been 2 free throws in the possession." And the Grizz lost by 5.
Right,
I mean,
like, why would you even upgrade it then at that point? Like,
just there, it's like, okay, well, get the 2 free throws, that possession, maybe they hit a 3. It's just like, again, I feel like I'm always kind of complaining about the refs, especially when it comes to small market teams. But I just hate seeing the Grizz give so much fight, even without their main scorer, and still just come up short. The Lakers game, they had it. They had the whole thing. It's just Dalton Connect. Just he got hot, man. I don't know if you guys watched that game, but he just came off the bench and was just boom. I think he was either 6 for 6 for threes or at least 5 for 5 at one point before he missed. And he's the single-handed reason why the Lakers won that game, because AD and LeBron couldn't get it done. AD had 5 fouls by like the second quarter. I mean, and JJ Redick kept him in too. I'm like, what are you doing, bro? But and then he was spotted kind of mouthing at LeBron, and I think he'll learn real quick that LeBron is the coach of the team, and you don't yell at the coach.
Right. Get yourself fired doing that. LeBron's fired like 18 coaches, from Paul Silas to almost Eric Spoelstra.
He's only dude can handpick his
him out. Yeah.
He's the only dude that can handpick his coaches, his teammates, and the trade bait.
He's as bad as handpicking them as Jake Paul is, his opponents.
Yeah, Jimmy Carter's up next for.
I was going to say, let's all throw it out there. Who do we think his next opponent is? I saw on the internet they said his next opponent's going to be Aaron Rodgers.
That's old. January 21st, once Joe Biden leaves office, they're scheduled to fight, but he might get some fights in before then.
Hey, come on. That's my Biden. This is Bidenomics.
I'm being serious. I'll fight this guy. I'll knock him out. He wanted to take Trump out back and fight him. He'll take down Jake Paul.
Maybe geriatric Jones is next. But, he did make an appearance at that fight. Or at least at what I saw. Most of mine was buffering the whole time. So
yeah. So let's get into that. That was the whole world, 9 billion people. Like, oh, what could go wrong? Like every human on Earth trying to hit a button at the same time. What could go wrong? Like, and it's in Dallas, which they know how to run things. Like, who are we to think, like, we may be idiot of the week ourselves for thinking that nothing was going to happen. I was with my cousin Mike, and we were joking. We were at a bar, and we're like, it was kind of working just normal, and then it started to go out a little bit in the prelims, and I'm like, you know what's gonna happen? Like right when the fight starts, it's just when people really log in, it's gonna go out. And he's like, like he was like, oh yeah, funny joke, and we're like, oh, we had to leave the bar and go to his house, and then we had to illegally stream it on East Stream because we couldn't get it to come.
A lot of folks had to do that. I left the house. I was sitting here watching it. My son was streaming something. My wife was streaming something. I was like, you guys on Netflix? Of course they were. I was just like, I called my buddy Matt, and I was like, hey, dude, you watching a fight? He's like, I just signed up for Netflix today. I mean, that's how it was. You had people literally signing up for Netflix that day just to do it,
Yeah, then for
they're watching it, and it was still buffered. Friend of mine, Sam, hit me up, and he was like, it was in the middle of the girls' fight, and he's like, man, this thing buffered out, and it literally kicked me back to the beginning of the broadcast. So it kicked him back to the very beginning, and he was like texting us,
cowboy cheerleaders.
Yeah, he's like, what is going on? Like, I can't, I'm stuck, like in the beginning, like, and it's like, well, the ladies' fight just ended, and that ladies' fight, ooh, man, that one chick got robbed. I think she got robbed. Yeah, dude, she got
it was
totally
beautiful.
robbed.
It was real fighting, though. But how dirty is Katie Taylor? She was trying to headbutt her, which, of course, I didn't see the fight because the one that buffered for me was that one, the bout that actually turned into something meaning. Who would have thought that the biggest takeaway from that night was women's boxing is superior to men's or geriatric boxing, I guess. Little boy versus geriatric boxing. But props to Amanda Serrano, and she showed that Puerto Rico is not, in fact, garbage. She put up a hell of a fight, and Kaylee Taylor, we don't like you.
Well, when I think of Premier Boxing, the first two names that come to mind are Cedric the Entertainer and Rosie Perez. So I felt right at home and not confused at all at what I was watching.
You know what I immediately thought?
I like white man can't jump, just
Nigerian
like
scammer is what you thought immediately about Cedric the Entertainer. Nigerian scammer.
Here's what I thought.
And Rosie Perez, I thought about pancakes. And if anybody's seen White Man Can't Jump, if you know, you know.
Right. So I was with my cousin Mike, as I mentioned, and what we were talking about with Rosie, we're like just looking at each other, and the funny clip from Dave Chappelle when they're talking about COVID and it's on like MTV or something, and they're like, no one can leave their house. Let's check in with Ja Rule.
Oh no, that's 9/11. That's one of my favorites. That's down back in 9/11. Yeah, MTV was like, we got Ja Rule on the phone. We're gonna get Ja's thoughts on this tragedy.
And Dave Chappelle's like,
nobody gets up.
I don't get what Ja Rule. Like what? Let's check in with Ja.
He's like, I might be looking for some answers right now that Ja Rule just don't have.
That's the best, clip ever, bro.
Like whenever it's like when bad things go on, I think I'm just walking around my crib going, oh my god, like somebody please get Ja Rule on the phone to make sense of all this. It's my favorite.
And that's what. Please get Rosie Perez. I'd rather have Rosie O'Donnell.
That's the gift that on every single Grizzlies post when they lose, when Ja's out, I always find that gif. I put, where is Ja? Like,
where is Ja? Yeah, dude, classic. Like what? And here's what's worse. Here is what's worse. If you type out the transcript of what everyone was saying, and you didn't know who it was, she actually had the best she had the best analysis. That's how
Yeah,
bad
I mean,
overall it was.
apparently she's grown up around boxing and is a huge fan, but I'm just like, that's great and
Yeah.
all, but does that mean that I should be a football commentator? Because I grew up around it. I'm a big fan. I'm very knowledgeable. Like, no, like, you know, I even got called on one of my posts misogynistic because I was talking about her, and I was like, I didn't say anything about a woman commentating. I just said, is it Rosie Perez?
Right. Right. If it was Ja Rule, you would have said the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was wild.
Then you had the other dude, the random white guy, just with his jokes. His jokes were so awful. At one point he said, every single person in this stadium is on its feet. And I was like, huh?
Riveting.
Yeah,
what? Excuse me?
I think you posted
What did you say again?
Yeah.
I mean, of course, everybody can't be perfect like us three, but still,
Your buddy won a bet though, right? It went the
No.
distance.
We didn't win. We did not win the bet because we picked that Tyson would win by decision and go the distance and win by decision.
You had it flipped. Yeah. Oh,
and
man.
Because how could he win going the distance being 72 years old? No, I know he's
my whole take on it.
He's basically 72.
Yeah, my whole take on it. Maybe I overthought it, but my whole take was a fantastic selling point for Netflix is a rematch. Like the 60-year-old man beats Jake Paul. Jake Paul is like, by decision. Jake Paul's like, no way, I want a rematch. And then it's the rematch. So I was like, in my head, like, yeah, if the fix is in, he's going to go. And even though, like, he definitely, Jake Paul landed more blows, but the score wasn't that far off, I mean, it was like 70.
He was up after
74.
2 rounds. It was after 2 rounds that he was up, but you knew he was going to tire. And the biggest thing, T.I., you should have known that fight was over before it started when Mike Tyson came walking out, and I haven't seen anyone else talk about this. He tripped. He almost face planted into the ground walking out on
Dana White,
the
Dana
aisle.
White mentioned it.
Yeah,
and he looked bad.
I mentioned that yesterday at the Two-Tone Blue tailgate. We were talking about the fight, and I mentioned that. I was like, the minute that he walked out and basically almost fell over, I was like, uh-oh. But I mean, it was midnight. He's 60 years old. Like, what was that about? I don't care who you are, what kind of shape you're in. Like, how are you going to do something at midnight when you're 60 years old, especially get in the ring and fight somebody that's 30 years old? I mean, to me, that was just it was a disadvantage. Even if it wasn't a fixed fight, it was a total disadvantage to Mike Tyson to fight at freaking midnight.
Speaking of fixed fights, I want your guys' opinion on this. I heard one thing that I think actually could make sense is they're saying that Jake Paul really did this because he has so much respect for Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson financially was kind of teetering, and he just wanted to put this fight on to help Mike Tyson out financially. And his net worth over one night went up by $40 million. Yeah. So there could be some there with that. But do you think that has anything to do with it, or is the main reason why they had that fight?
I mean, I'm not going to say, that it's not fixed or it is, because, typically I it's like going to see a 90s action flick. It's like sometimes you got to suspend disbelief, like, sure, Password Swordfish, like all these movies, like, yeah, Face Off, sure, you just cut a guy's face off and sort of transplant.
Halle Berry's in Swordfish.
I will say that there were some moments where in the beginning, they were talking to each other right before the match, like literally like face to face. Like, what were they saying? It was like before they even started boxing, they'd come up to each other and they were talking, and it wasn't trash. It was just like, you ready to do this? Okay, you ready? I mean, it was almost like they were working something out, but
yeah, like South Park. I respect you, bro. I do respect you. Quit disrespecting, bro. I do respect you, bro.
But I wish when Jake Paul bowed to him, I wish Tyson just would have went, bam! Just walked out of the ring,
missed his chance.
God, man. Would have been the sports moment of our entire generation, I just would have loved it. I would have loved it. Of course, he would have been railed on social media, but he doesn't care. Mm-hmm. I did love his quote when they asked him, they were like, well, did you prove anybody wrong tonight? And he was like, I don't do anything for anybody. It's like, I've just proved myself that I can do it, and gave my kids a chance to see that old man could get in the ring and go toe to toe with somebody half his age. Like, I did like that. I like that he didn't bow down to the people were talking this, talking that. Like, people always clowned on Mike, but ain't nobody gonna clown on Mike to his face. Like,
clown on that 40 mil.
internet keyboard warriors like to clown on him, but you know, us 80s kids and Miles too. I mean, I'm sure Miles went back and watched many of Tyson's fights. I mean, that dude was a superhero, man.
Yeah.
Freaking superhero.
Yeah, they don't take too long to go through the catalog because he wins sometimes in 20 seconds. So, to go through, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, I mean, how many knockouts has he had in the first round? Like they said, 40 or something.
I thought it was 41. So you're right around there.
Whew.
That's wild.
I don't know about you guys, but I was watching the Vander Holyfield fight. Me and buddies and I got that one on pay-per-view when he bit his ear, and we were all just like, "Whoa, what just happened?"
What just happened? Yeah.
But you saw him biting his glove and stuff. I mean, they asked him about that, and he's like, I have a biting fixation. It's like, yeah, we know that. We've seen that. Apparently, you know, at least it's you're biting your glove and not Jake Paul's one of many tattoos. You know,
right.
His mom forgot the orange slices that day. He didn't have any snacks between rounds.
Speaking of, I know it's a few days later, but has Jake Paul's lowrider made it to the ring yet? Because, my goodness, I thought we were getting the whole Phil Collins catalog by that point, you know?
Right. It was like,
come on, bro.
I thought DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince going 2 miles an hour so everybody sees you.
Yeah.
Like, we already see you, bro.
You don't be in my heart. He should have at the end played "You'll Be in My Heart," Mike. You'll be in my heart.
And then Mike Tyson comes out to freaking old Jay-Z, old New York grimy Jay-Z, and I was like, all right, now we're talking, you know. And he came out first round swinging. I thought, okay, but yeah, we saw him. You know, it's my brother and I were texting back and forth. The first couple rounds, we're like, oh, this is awesome. Reliving our childhood, and then brother's like, his legs are gone.
Yeah.
It was obvious, you know.
Even Rosie was like, this don't look good for Mike.
Yeah.
He was like,
She was like, Billy.
Billy. Now, let's get into the real fight, because even Dana White says it's hard to argue that Bones Jones is not the GOAT. And when you see the slow-mo of that kick to that dude's spleen, the spleen moves in his body. I think you see it
he's translucent, so you can see it shift.
Like
Crane from Ninja Turtles,
his spleen was like, bro, oh. It's like, what just happened?
His spleen was talking to him.
Yeah.
I mean, he just went down oh, I am verklempt. He just bent down as if to just give me a breather. Give me about 10 minutes and I can resume. Nope, it doesn't work like that in UFC. He's coming to finish you off. That was
Jones.
In the third round. I mean,
shout out Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yeah, Albuquerque. So I feel like he just cemented himself. Who realistically, and you might say no, but is there anyone that you would realistically right here, right now say, nope, this guy is honestly better? I can't. I don't know of a single UFC fighter, and I'm not saying who's that size. I'm saying any size.
Alec Baldwin, because he'd have a gun.
Yeah. Other than Alec Baldwin.
I mean, maybe Karl Malone, you know? I mean, Karl Malone, the mailman, you know? He was a pretty big dude. Maybe Karl Malone could take him, you know?
Hey,
Karl
him
Malone
and DDP.
Did drive semi-trucks.
Him and DDP.
I forgot about that. Oh, my goodness.
How could you forget that, bro?
I totally forgot.
Come on now.
You know, I wasn't a big DDP fan. My college roommate, he loved him, and I was like the opposite. I loved the guy he was always feuding with, Raven. I loved that dude. He was always like, you just like him because he's got this 90s grunge thing. Because I mean, you know, that was still, you know, in 97. I graduated in 97, so obviously, you know, it's still a big thing. And I'm like, well, maybe, but I just like that he's just a little hardcore, a little different, you know. But he was all DDP, and he would always do this in our dorm. He would always do, you know, this stuff, dude. And I was like, please, you know.
Bang.
Shout out to my boy Watts. You know,
you will feel the bang.
We don't keep in contact as much as we should, but we've been friends since little kids. One of the first dudes I met when I moved out to Peker and lived in my neighborhood. And yeah, we roomed together at MTSU, lived together for many years. He taught me how to get your Comcast bill taken care of real quick. He was good. It's good on the phone.
Nice. Yeah, good old DDP in the video game, the Revenge Nitro or whatever it was, where you click the special on Nintendo 64. Once you get your special and you hit the toggle, the controller, and he does the special move, that was always so fun with DDP. Like, he would just go around the ring and...
Those games were awesome. Those THQ wrestling games were the best. Those are hands down the best
for sure.
wrestling games.
Shout out THQ for molding our childhood.
I would always create the characters they didn't have. You know, you had to create a character, so it was like, you know, it was awesome.
Yeah, it was fun to just be like Buff Bagwell, Eddie Guerrero, DDP.
Eddie Guerrero just had his 5-year anniversary of his death just the other day, actually.
Wow.
Like last week.
Rey Mysterio, man, flying off the ropes and all that. And then you could go underneath and grab like a trash can and just carry it around and then just beat people with it.
But I mean, even the UFC guys that transitioned into professional wrestling, because obviously they were like, hey, you know, at the time may have been more money in it. There's probably a lot of money in UFC these days, but back then it was still a little iffy. But I mean, even those guys, like, they couldn't hold a candle to this dude today, you know, like the Ken Shamrocks and Tank Abbott and, you know, Taz and all these people, like, nah, you know.
Yeah, I mentioned my cousin earlier. We were talking about, I was like, dude, because he really, really follows UFC and fighting in general. When he lived near Oakland years ago, he was a member of a gym that had some pretty decent fighters come through there, and he learned like Muay Thai and like just some stuff and sparred for a long time, and just he knows his way around that world, right? And I was asking him about Brock Lesnar because it truly was impressive, to be honest, that Brock Lesnar could come in as a fake wrestler and then do it for real and then win. But he fell hard because he was just a big man doing his thing. If you really, really watch and go back to those fights, this is what my cousin's telling me, that like his footwork is off. He doesn't know what he's doing. He just packed that big of a punch and was that big that he could overpower people, but it fell quick. Like, once people knew how to technically wrestle in the UFC, he was done. And what happened?
Have a strong
went
core.
He went back to wrestling.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it was still impressive at the time to just go and do that. So,
well, there's rumors that WWE is pushing hard to get McGregor to join because they think that he would be just a great sell and he'd be a great character, because he already is a character. That's his whole thing. Like, I was never a big fan of him. I thought he was a little too loudmouth, but he'd fit the mold as a professional wrestler. He'd be perfect.
Exactly the point.
Yeah, he would be perfect, you know.
All right, so let's shift to college football, because there was some decent games, but to be honest, because everything is now the top 12, I don't know if things were shaken up all that blah 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 blah. I'm not sure if things were shaken up all that much. Miles, what do you think about how the shakeup will happen with the Tennessee, Georgia? Obviously is the main one, right?
Right. Well, your word salad right there was describing the SEC standings right now, because it is a jumbled mess. And that's the only thing that really happened was Tennessee's probably now out. We'll see tomorrow night, and Georgia moves in. Where they're ranked, who really cares right now, because we still have a few weeks to go. Right. BYU losing doesn't matter, because BYU, unless they lose again, which they could, they're at Arizona State, that would be the real shakeup. But BYU losing doesn't matter, because BYU would not be an at-large team into the playoff. They're still sitting atop the Big 12 standings, so if they take care of business, they're still going to go to the Big 12 championship game. If they win that, they'll still be one of the 5 best conference champions, because again, it's not necessarily that the P4 get the top 4 seeds. Hell, we could live in a world where if these Big 12 teams keep losing, Colorado loses next week at Kansas, who's starting to play better football, you could see the Big 12 champ fall all the way down to 6, and the Big 12 wouldn't even get a team in. But there's a long way to go before that would happen, and a team like Boise State and then like Tulane or Army gets in as well. Probably won't happen, but it's not impossible. Along with Tennessee falling out, I think the biggest thing is The fact that Boise State probably will see into the top 4 now, not guaranteed, but it is probable. They could be ranked like 11th or 12th, but be a top 4 seed because they'd be one of the 4 highest ranked projected conference champions, or at least highest ranked among the conference leaders, so to speak. But the upsets, other than Vandy over Bama, there haven't really been shockers to me. Because to me, BYU, if you watch BYU, and I think you're hard pressed to find anyone that lives east of Mississippi that's watched as much BYU football as I have, because IU and BYU are kind of doing the same thing this year. BYU's all smoke and mirrors. They got exploited last week against Utah. A few weeks before that at home, they played horrible Oklahoma State team close. So honestly, Kansas win that game. I was kind of that game was close in the first half. I was like, I'm going to bed because Kansas is going to win this football game. And then, down the line, you had a number of upsets. Louisville, Washington State losing to New Mexico, Albuquerque, New Mexico taking care of business again. Man, New Mexico had a hell of a day on Saturday. And then you had LSU losing out Florida, but LSU like trash. Where we sit here again talking about how Brian Kelly can't get this thing done.
Florida's tweet, watch our tables, coach.
Please don't break our tables.
Please don't break our tables.
Yeah. So Saturday was cool. There were 7 top 25 teams that lost. 2 of them lost to other ranked teams. BYU gets knocked off to a preseason top 25 team in Kansas. But again, who really cares? BYU's still going to be in the top 12 tomorrow, or at least in the bracket tomorrow. They may not be top 12, but they'll be in the bracket tomorrow by default. And then every other upset just didn't affect the playoffs. So really, it's cool to see upsets. We all say it's cool to see upsets, but the monster upsets of Wisconsin over Oregon didn't happen. Penn State still finds a way to win football games, even though they're not that good. And then obviously this coming weekend, we got the big one in Columbus, where Big Noon Kickoff and College Game Day are both going to be at another Indiana football game, and it's just weird.
The Ohio State University. T.I., I want to get your prediction for this IU Ohio State game. I'll give mine, and then we'll let Miles give his.
Well, I mean, I have boasted and bragged on the socials that IU is going to hand Ohio State their first loss. I don't want to curse them by any means. I do have the kiss of death when it comes to some things. But I'm never a believer of Ohio State, and I'm not a believer in Oregon either. I mean, and they've had a few of them where what was it, Idaho and Wisconsin, right? Like, was it Idaho that, right? Weren't we talking about that, Miles?
Idaho only lost by 10 to Oregon.
Yeah. So it's like, I think both of those teams are suspect. Of course, I'm an SEC homer. Always will be, but I just have a tough time buying those teams. So I think IU's got just as shot as anybody else. Obviously, we know how many points they're putting up. It's tough for me to put a point total on here, but since just we're having fun, I'm going to say 34-31. IU pulls it out.
I'm going 31-28 IU. Miles, what say you?
I'm going 37-0 Ohio State because I don't want to be disappointed. So I'm going to say Ohio State kicks our ass. And I'll say 37-0 because it's been 37 years since Indiana has beaten Ohio State. And they did it actually back-to-back years. And the year prior to their most recent win, which they did at home, they beat Ohio State in the shoe 31-10. And Woody Hayes said that was the darkest day in Ohio State football. We pray to God the second darkest day is coming this Saturday and essentially clinching a playoff spot for my Indiana Hoosiers. To that end, though, I will say as long as the Hoosiers come within 2 touchdowns, that should be good enough to get us into the 12-team playoff.
Oh, no, no question.
I like Miles's outlook there. One of my life mottos is always expect the worst, so you're never let down. So,
sounds like a Michael Scott way. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And what's that?
Michael Scott.
Yeah.
What's that sound?
Mayday! Cover your brains, boys and girls. Put on your tinfoil hats, because this is Idiot of the Week.
All right, you idiots and sinners, it's now time to talk about the real college football team from the state of Indiana. The Purdue Boilermakers are on fire in the L column. And this week's idiot is none other than the well-known Heisman Trophy frontrunner, Denylon Morset, who, in a game where they only trailed 14-0 in the first 30 seconds of the game against Penn State, had a wide open touchdown in the back of his own end zone in West Lafayette. But he didn't know where the lines were in the end zone because, well, it's Purdue. They have no idea where the end zone is. He ran out the back behind the pylon, set up wide open, caught the football, looked down and said, oops.
He was out twice.
So Denylon missed
Morset,
the
you are the
pylon.
idiot.
Denylon missed the pylon.
Ting ting.
So
Now,
how
the
did you
Purdue
get that name,
basketball
though?
team didn't miss the nylon against Alabama, so unfortunately, they do have a good basketball team again. But holy
Denylon.
hell, if 10-0 for IU wasn't good enough, 1-9 Purdue, 0-9 against FBS teams, I'm living in dreamland over here. Every day is like
Denylon.
Christmas for IU football fans. Not because we're good, but Purdue is horrible. And not to mention Purdue's AD, who hired Ryan Walters as their head football coach out of Illinois. I want to give that man a lifetime contract. If I had the money that Mark Cuban did, I would not be giving that money to Bloomington. I'd be giving it to Purdue to lock in Ryan Walters as the head coach of Purdue for the next 50 years because they suck.
Denylon. That's like Dylon, you know? Who are your top 5 favorite rappers? Dylon. Denylon. How did he get that name? His mom gives birth and she's got some pantyhose on and she's like, I don't know, what are these made of? Nylon. Denylon.
I think she said nylon.
This guy's going to Purdue. His life's going to be ruined. How can I make it even worse?
Yeah.
That was that thought process right there.
Hey, what's a prestigious honor to be named Idiot of the Week? So at least he got that.
I mean, they played Penn State, so they only lost by 39 because, you know, Penn State's
39
way overrated. You think IU's beaten no one? Yeah, neither has Penn State. Great. Penn State's best win at home by 14 over Illinois.
Right.
Great, yeah. But IU hasn't beaten anyone. Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
We'll
but
find
Penn State
out.
has the big name. They're traditional power, and they have a loss at home. But hey, we're gonna rank them ahead of IU. Whatever. We'll figure it out this Saturday. It doesn't matter. I'll let it go.
Do not let us go. Make sure you follow us at Sports Idiot Nation wherever you get your social media. We were talking about Purdue beating Alabama, and we took the liberty to have some fun by saying, "Oh, Purdue football had beaten Alabama." Like, oh, it was a big shocker, like big
They
deal.
scored 12 touchdowns.
Yeah. But no, it was obviously basketball, but we like to, as idiots, have some fun. So to follow more idiocracies like that, make sure you're following us wherever you get your social media, from Instagram to X to Facebook, all that good stuff. Remember, new episodes are every Monday and Thursday. So with that, we will see you Thursday. Okay, all you sinners, follow Sports Idiot Nation on TikTok, X, and Instagram. Like us on Facebook, and remember, the most fun way to watch us is on YouTube every Monday and Thursday. Be sure to hit the notification bell so you can be updated when new content drops. Remember, the podcast can also be found on the usual suspects of Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Always remember, don't be an idiot.
Sinner.